The moment Thomas Rydell stepped into the bustling café, the atmosphere shifted subtly, though no one acknowledged it. People chattered over steaming cups of coffee, clattering spoons, and the hum of espresso machines, yet a strange sense of unease lingered. Thomas, impeccably dressed in a tailored gray suit, moved with quiet grace, his black hair perfectly in place, yet he seemed invisible to everyone around him. Rumors whispered through the city about the Japanese billionaire who had quietly amassed a fortune beyond imagination. But to the regular patrons of the Golden Spoon, he was just another stranger, one they chose to ignore. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thomas sat at the farthest corner table, meticulously folding his hands over his tablet. He had grown accustomed to the dismissive stares, the subtle avoidance of eye contact, and the curious glances that quickly turned away. Today, however, he wasn't here for anonymity or to disappear into the crowd. He had a mission, one that carried a personal weight heavier than any financial ledger. Across the café, a young waitress named Emily Hart moved with practiced efficiency. Her auburn hair bounced with each step, and her hazel eyes carried a warmth that made even the most stressed customers smile. Emily wasn't wealthy, nor did she have lofty dreams of grandeur, she simply loved connecting with people. She noticed Thomas immediately, not because he was famous, but because he seemed lonely. As she approached his table, she noticed the faint tension in his shoulders, the way his fingers tapped rhythmically on the tablet as if counting time itself. Emily had learned that sometimes, the smallest gestures spoke louder than words. She took a deep breath and greeted him in her usual cheerful tone. "Hi there. Can I get you something to drink?" Thomas looked up, his dark eyes meeting hers briefly. Then, almost instinctively, he replied, not in English, but in fluent Japanese. "Kohi o onegaishimasu, coffee, please." Emily froze for a split second, surprised, yet something inside her stirred. She had taken a year of Japanese in college and remembered enough to respond. "Ah. Hi, Kashikomara Mashita, yes, certainly," she said, bowing slightly with a smile. The reaction was instantaneous. Thomas's eyes softened, and for the first time that day, he felt acknowledged, not as a billionaire, not as a headline, but simply as a human being who spoke a language he loved. Emily returned with his coffee moments later, placing the cup gently on the table. "I couldn't help but notice you speak Japanese," she said quietly. "I studied it in college. Your pronunciation is perfect." Thomas leaned back, a faint smile forming. "It's been a long time since someone recognized it," he admitted. Everyone seems to only see who I am on paper, not who I am as a person." Emily nodded. "People are often scared of what they don't understand. But kindness is universal. You don't need words for that." For the next hour, Emily and Thomas spoke in a mix of Japanese and English. Each sentence they exchanged bridged a gap that wealth and status had built over decades. Emily learned that Thomas had inherited his empire at a young age, thrust into a world of meetings, decisions, and endless expectations. His fortune was enormous, but so was his isolation. He confided that genuine friendship and connection were rare commodities in his life. People often approached him with agendas, not hearts. Emily shared her own story, of working tirelessly to support her family, dreaming of someday traveling the world but constrained by reality. Yet she remained cheerful, believing that compassion and attentiveness could change someone's day. Thomas listened, captivated by her authenticity. As the day turned to evening, a small crowd had gathered, curious about the unusual interaction. They watched a billionaire, once invisible, once untouchable, laugh and converse with a waitress like any other person. It was in that moment that Thomas realized something vital: wealth was meaningless without genuine human connection. Emily's willingness to speak his language, literally and figuratively, had pierced the bubble he lived in. "Emily," Thomas said softly, "you've reminded me of something I almost forgot. That the world is full of people who care, if you only take the time to see them." She smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "And you've reminded me that even the loneliest person deserves to be heard." Word of the encounter spread quickly. The media labeled it a heartwarming moment, yet for Thomas and Emily, it was simply life as it should have been. A billionaire and a waitress, two people from entirely different worlds, found common ground in kindness, empathy, and the courage to acknowledge another person beyond superficial labels. Weeks passed, and Thomas began frequenting the café, no longer as an observer or a faceless presence, but as someone who had found a friend. He helped the café with discreet donations, improving working conditions, supporting the local community, all without flaunting his wealth. Emily continued to serve her customers, now with the quiet satisfaction of knowing she had made a difference in someone's life. Their friendship deepened naturally. Thomas learned to laugh freely again, to share his thoughts without fear of judgment. Emily discovered that her empathy and courage to connect had a ripple effect, touching lives far beyond her own. One evening, as the sun cast golden rays across the café's interior, Thomas turned to Emily. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "I've spent years trying to find meaning in the wrong places. And now, I finally understand. It's in these moments, simple as they may seem, where life truly matters." Emily nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Sometimes, it just takes one person noticing you. One act of kindness can change everything. Thomas reached out, placing a hand over hers. "And you noticed me, when no one else would. That's more valuable than anything I've ever owned." They shared a quiet smile, understanding that life's richest treasures were not in gold or property, but in empathy, courage, and authentic connection. And in that café, amid the ordinary clatter of cups and laughter, an extraordinary bond had been forged, one that would last far longer than any fortune, headline, or rumor. From that day on, the patrons of the Golden Spoon no longer ignored Thomas. Not because of his wealth, but because they saw the transformation a single act of understanding could create. And Thomas, the Japanese billionaire once invisible to the world, finally felt seen, not for his status, but for the heart that had been awakened by a simple, brave conversation. In the end, Emily and Thomas taught everyone around them a lesson that wealth could never buy, that human connection, empathy, and the courage to truly see someone are the most powerful forces in life. And just like that, a billionaire and a waitress, worlds apart, showed that kindness speaks a language everyone understands, leaving an indelible mark on everyone fortunate enough to witness it.